I've been paying attention to you recently, and I noticed that you are. It seems like you're obsessed with cases, legal cases concerning cybercrime, and most specifically the CFAA. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what your feelings are on that law and what you're trying to do as far as exposing all these different cases?
Okay, the CFAA was written a long-ass time ago before anybody really had any idea computers could do. So, in the interest of paranoia, the legislatures wrote the CFAA in such a broad manner to encompass every possible fear that the Sci-Fi Channel was instilling in them. Over time, as the technology evolved and people learned that computers are not a tool for evil, the CFAA never changed. And so this broad law that encompassed anything where a person exceeds the authorized use of any computer hooked up to the internet is a felony offense. An example of that is Google's terms of service state that only individuals who are above the age of 13 can use their services. That means that if you're 12 years old, you can't even do a Google search without it being a federal offense under the CFAA. So the prosecutors have a huge amount of leverage under the CFAA to charge anybody using a computer, quite literally. And so they can pick and choose and harass anybody they want because of this, the broad nature of the CFAA. So you go in to your work computer and a file that you were working on, but your work gets mad at you. Instead of just firing you, they can charge you with a federal offense. You change a document on your computer that you don't have permission to use, is not even work-related or connected to anything but the internet. It's a federal offense. So prosecutors have been using this stuff, the CFAA. And so my goal is to try to change the CFAA and recreate the entire law so that it narrows the scope of what is defined as a federal offense.
Right. And the CFAA was written, what, in like 1986, I think?
Yeah, some crazy long time ago.
Yeah, and it was written at a time when the internet was only in the domain of the government. So if you were logging on to a computer, you were on the internet, you were logging on to a government computer, and that was a no-no.
Right.
And it hasn't taken into consideration the fact that the internet is now in the hands of the private sector, and there's people that are making their own websites, their own personal private websites, if you want to call them, and they are, folks that access those websites in a certain way can be charged under this law just because of the way it's written and how it can be interpreted. And it wasn't written with the intent of, say, JoJo.com being established and somebody, whatever, logging on and getting access to some, whatever, hidden part of your site or something, and so rather than somebody getting punished with like a slap on the wrist, like, to me, depending on the degree of the infraction, I think for the most part, a lot of these crimes that are being committed and prosecuted are essentially shouldn't even be considered anything more than like an infraction. Like it should be the equivalent of getting like a parking ticket. You know?
Right. Or if I have sections on my website that are password protected and completely hidden from everybody in the community at large. Only maybe 3 people have access to it. If you or anybody else were to access that area, it's a federal offense, and I'm not anybody. I'm nobody. The information there isn't, anything that makes any difference. If you violate the terms of service for any website whatsoever, whether it's my own personal website or Twitter or a federal computer, it's a federal offense. And if the government wants to push the issue, and they often do with certain individuals just to target them, then you've got hell to pay. You've got to defend yourself against a federal indictment or a federal criminal complaint. You have to travel to whatever jurisdiction that they charge you in, because jurisdiction in computer cases are difficult to define. The computer being changed or accessed could be in one state and you could be in another state. So it's a horrendously law for people who have done innocuous things like delete a file on a work computer or change a grade. It leads itself to huge prosecutorial misconduct and abuse. And so my goal, whether it's with a person like Agent 47 or Seekin or anybody who has trolled me tremendously, I don't really care so much about that. I care more about trying to help them to avoid being abused by a malicious prosecution using the CFAA.
And let's talk really quick about Agent 47. What exactly is he charged with doing?
Okay, he's charged with accessing the university there in New Jersey. From what I read of the whole situation is he went and used a skimmer or some type of script to pull all of the juicy details from their website. Instead of going through and actually clicking on each link and having to pull up the directory and click on everybody's email to copy and paste somewhere, he used a skimmer and it copied and pasted all this information automatically. Well, the university's computer's terms of use say that you can't access their website or use a skimmer. So he committed a federal offense under the CFAA for doing so. That's what he was doing with a lot of other websites, too, if he was really the one that was getting the information. He was basically just skimming the information that's already public and just putting it all in one place and then dumping it somewhere.
And what was his motivation behind doing this? Do you know?
I think he was motivated by the adrenaline of having his name appear in places like Cyber War News or Twitter all over the place. I think it was more of a persona.
He wanted e-fame. He wanted notoriety.
Right. He was trying to compensate for the real life lack of notoriety that he was getting. So he found a venue to